Though the name might indicate otherwise, not all European countries are actually members of the European Union. The European Union, or EU, is an economic and political union made up of 27 countries. There are several countries in Europe that, while they maintain friendly relationships with the countries of the EU, they are not, in fact, members themselves. Three of the most notable examples of this are the nations of Norway, Switzerland, and Iceland. But why is that? Why, in the decades since the EU was formed, have these countries opted to stay out of it? Let's start with Norway, a country that's perched at the top of the Scandinavian peninsula. With borders along the North Sea, Arctic Circle, and Baltic Sea, Norway also shares borders with Finland and Sweden, both of which are members of the EU. Norway is known for its striking fjords, rich Viking history, and the Northern Lights. However, Norway is also unique in its relationship to the EU. Norway has actually attempted to join the EU in the past. In 1962, the country applied to join an early version of the Union, then called the European Economic Community. Their application was contingent on membership in the United Kingdom, so when France vetoed the United Kingdom's bid to join the EEC, Norway was out as well. Its application was suspended in 1963 and then again in 1967 when France blocked the UK yet again. Since then, Norwegian citizens have repeatedly voted against joining the EU. Since the last vote in the 90s, Norway has not sought EU membership again. One of the biggest reasons Norway has avoided joining the EU is its reliance on the fish industry and its desire to maintain control of its fishing waters rather than comply with the EU's common fisheries policy. There have also been concerns about Norway's ability to retain control over its natural oil and gas resources if it were to join the EU. Finally, there are concerns among many Norwegians about the notion of Brussels taking on aspects of Norwegian sovereignty, allowing other forces to govern them outside of the Norwegian government. Switzerland is a country that, if you didn't know otherwise, you might assume already was a member of the EU. After all, it's nestled right there in the middle of the continent and bordered by France, Germany, Italy, and Austria. In this crowd, Switzerland, famous for its cheese, watches, and delicious chocolate, is the odd man out. In the early 1990s, Switzerland began the process of applying to join the EEA. But when the Swiss people voted on a 1992 referendum regarding the application, they voted to suspend the effort. A 2018 survey of Swiss citizens showed that only 3% considered it a possibility that Switzerland would join the EU. When you think about it, it makes sense that Switzerland would want to keep to themselves. Traditionally, as a nation, they're associated with maintaining neutrality in the face of global conflict. However, there are other aspects of Switzerland that influence this position. Switzerland has a system of direct democracy, and all major decisions are made via public referendum. This would make it difficult and unappealing for the Swiss people to give decision-making power to Brussels. Though they're not a member, Switzerland has demonstrated a willingness to collaborate with the EU. Over the years, they've reached a number of bilateral agreements with the Union, which allow them the benefits of the single market without sacrificing their status as a non-member. To many in Switzerland, this is the ultimate compromise. Maintaining financial autonomy is extremely valuable to the nation since it is known as a global banking hub. Iceland, a land of natural beauty such as volcanoes, waterfalls, and again the Northern Lights, is the most isolated of the European countries, sharing its borders with no other nations. Its closest neighbor is EU member Ireland, over 1,400 kilometers away. Iceland applied to join the EU in 2009, seeking financial stability after a crisis. However, a 2013 election caused the application process to stall. Like Norway, Iceland wants to protect the fishing industry's exclusivity in its waters. Icelanders have also raised concerns over national sovereignty, as well as maintaining control of agriculture and currency. Iceland has not held a formal vote on EU membership, but public sentiment tends to skew in the direction of staying out of the Union. Iceland and Norway are both members of the European Economic Area, which allows them to participate in the EU's single market. They contribute to the EU budget and comply with certain EU laws despite not having representation in the European Parliament. But just like they wanted, they've also maintained independence in various industries such as fishing. All three of these countries are members of the European Free Trade Association, which was founded in 1960 as an alternative to the EEC. As its name implies, the EFTA supports free trade between its members, as well as with members of the EU. Norway, Switzerland, and Iceland may not be members now, but is there any chance they might join the EU in the future? Given the popular attitude toward joining the EU among its citizens, it's highly unlikely that Switzerland will find itself joining the EU unless something dramatically shifts on a national level. For now, they're staying neutral. Given its voting history, the same can probably be said for Norway as well. Of the three countries, Iceland is the one most likely to change its mind and join the EU. After all, there's never been a popular vote there on the possibility of joining. Until then, it's difficult to gauge whether or not the people of Iceland would be interested in the possibility. In the event of another recession like the one that led them to apply for membership in 2009, it makes sense that Iceland would pursue membership once more. But only time will tell. We're not psychics here, we're just interested in geopolitics. If you like this, check out the video Shocking EU Power Shift That Everyone is Missing.